Welcome back. So this is going to be a little rendition of what I like to call a battery grid tie setup. I don't really see a whole lot of other people doing this, and there's actually no dedicated equipment that does this. So what this is going to be set up to do here is we're going to charge with solar a battery, a 24-volt battery, and we're going to save that energy in the battery and then export it either on demand, or we're going to save that for after it gets dark and then export it. Export it as in, I mean, backfeed it to the grid or offset our loads with the energy that we saved. All right, just so we're clear here and where everybody's together on the same page, the yellow device in the picture here, that's a charge controller. The blue device, that's a grid tie inverter. But there's something special about that grid tie inverter, and you maybe have seen them online, and they're almost $400 for one of those things. I was lucky enough to buy one of those about 3 years ago. That unit right there in the video is 3 years old, okay? And I have had no issues with it. Other than those little connections, you see those wired connections coming out the bottom? That's not stock. I had to cut that thing. I had to cut those little chintzy connectors that they come with off, and I had to install just direct leads right to the board. I have a video on that I'm going to be posting up later, but it's really just going to be an add-on video. I'm going to chop it all the way up, so it's just the nitty-gritty of what actually happened to that device to make it direct lead. All right. So back to what we were talking about. We're going to charge with the yellow device. That's MPPT charge controller, 60 amps. Okay. We're going to come into the solar combiner box, the one that we built in the previous video. Go watch that. Go watch that right now. I'm going to link it. All right. So we're going to hook the MPP charge controller into the combiner box. The combiner box is a 60 amp combiner box with a 60 amp charge controller. Okay. Everything 60 amps on the solar side. So what was special about the grid tie inverter? I remember, yeah, I said it. It was special. It's got a battery function, all right? You can hook it directly to a battery, and you can export that energy onto the grid or backfeed your meter or offset your loads, whichever comes first in your electrical setup. So you can see we got the inverter, which is the blue box, connected to that little battery terminal. That's an automotive battery terminal. They use that in car audio applications, automotive applications, marine applications. All that does is provide a fused connection to a battery. So essentially what's going to happen here, okay, real simple. Yellow box, charged battery. Blue box, discharged battery. The blue box waits to see a voltage, voltage parameters high and low, to start and stop the discharge of the battery. I don't know why, but there's just no devices on the internet that actually do this. If there is, tell me in the description below. I'd love to know about them. I've been searching for it for years. No one absolutely does this in this way that I have found. There are inverters that offset. So what they'll do is they'll hold the loads of the devices on the electrical grid, right? So you put the box between your loads, and then you hook batteries up to them, and then the solar charges the batteries, and then the inverter will switch between battery power and grid power seamlessly. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to push the energy onto the grid. I'm trying to backfeed the energy on my electrical meter, right? Nothing does that. There's on-demand ones. This is actually works as an on-demand one, and then there's a lot simpler ones that look sort of like car audio amplifiers that do that, right? But they don't have a battery function. They don't have like a dedicated battery function that looks for a certain voltage that you can set and then discharges until it gets to a voltage that you could set, and then allows the battery to charge all the way back up to your top parameter and then start again. There is nothing that I've seen that does that. So essentially what we've set up here, right, and this is through the use of multiple equipment and multiple combinations of equipment and functions that different equipment has, you can basically charge up 6, 7, 800 amp hours worth of batteries. And that charge controller is 150 volt input, 60 amps. That's a lot of solar. So during the day, you can charge up 6, 7, 800 amp hours worth of batteries, okay? And then whenever your rate changes, a lot of people have a variable electric rate. So when your rate changes, you can start offloading that energy and pump as much energy into the grid as possible when it's the most profitable, right? Nobody wants to sell energy for the least amount of money. So they're charging you a different kilowatt. Some people have fixed rates. This doesn't exactly account for everybody. If you had a fixed rate all day long, you should just be selling it all day long, and then before it gets dark, charge your batteries all the way up and then dump it all, through into the night until your batteries are dead, and then restart the whole process over again. I'm not talking exactly to you guys. I'm talking to the guys who are charged off peak, on peak, energy rates. Their bill is fluctuating based upon the time of the day, and they also happen to have a large solar setup that they maybe want to, you know, this is a small system. The one that I'm working on in this video, this is like 2 kilowatt system, you know, that I'm going to use this for. You could definitely scale this up and probably do 5 kilowatts on this system, but that's not what I'm going to do, right? This solution is for a very specific person, a very specific niche group of solar guys that want to maximize their profits and returns on their solar equipment, and they're doing it DIY, right? So this isn't really for the home guys who are out there and they got contract solar. And to be honest, it's probably why they don't have any equipment that does this specific job. They want you to do these mental gymnastics and hook all this stuff together and start coming up with fancy ways to do what you need to do with the energy. They're not making all-in-one home-built solutions for this. So, you know, here we are putting things on this cutting board. All right, rant over. Let's get back to the build. I'm sure you can see I'm in my pajamas. I'm doing this at 5 o'clock in the morning. The sun's just coming up. You'll see later on in the video, I'm going to take the shade out of the window, and the sun is just crested over the, you know, horizon, basically. And we're working on solar. I'm sure you can tell that the board that I'm screwing this all down to doesn't look like a piece of wood. All right, that's because it's a knot. It's a cutting board, a commercial grade cutting board. I got it from a restaurant supply. It was 20 bucks. I think it looks a lot better than wood. You can use wood. I'm sure both of them work exactly the same. All we're really looking for here is it not to conduct electricity. And I think it does. And I also think it gives a pretty good aesthetic. So if you were going to put this in, say, your garage or somewhere where it was going to be exposed to moisture, which wouldn't be very good for the equipment, right? Let's just point that out if it's not the obvious. I don't think the board would deteriorate, okay? It's a cutting board. It's made of plastic. Plastic will last thousands of years. Probably outlast you and me for sure. I got the idea from working on boats. One of my first jobs was a boat mechanic, and the guy I used to work for, he would use this material called starboard. It's very expensive. It's that, you know, plasticky cutting board type material that you see on a lot of boats. I would almost be so brave as to say it's the exact same thing. I mean, they look the same. It feels the same. This has a little bit different texture than that, and it's a little bit less dense. So they're, if not the same, but very similar, okay? So this aesthetic is what I'm going for. I kind of like the white background. I kind of like how everything's laid out nice and neat. And I'm going to mount this up in my enclosed trailer. You guys have seen the other videos about that, I'm sure. If you're subscribed, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And if you've made it this far along in the video, then you're someone who's actually interested in this stuff. And I'm probably not going to change up the content. If I was or was not making YouTube videos, I would still be doing this. So this is for me. This isn't for you. I'm doing this because I want to use this as a solution for the type of setup that I'm going for. And I'm going to go into more detail about that setup later on. For now, I'm going to spare you guys lengthy explanations as to what's what. I've made sure I've color-coded the wire appropriately so you just know red and black. Basically point A to point B, all of the equipment is marked red and black, and everything has its home and place. So we're just, point A to point B. We're hooking up the wires, we're going to the combiner box, point A to point B. So we're going to be installing this in the enclosed trailer. Right now I have the off-grid inverter in there, which I've done the video on it, the Pal Mister video about the off-grid inverter. It's doing a great job. It's running my freezer, it's running my washing machine, but it has that little tiny battery hookup battery on it, which is only like, I don't know, 40 amp hours or something like that. And it's been a great battery, but I've had it like 3 years. I'm looking at buying other batteries, and this one's really ran its course. I'm sure it's still a great battery, but with this setup that we're working on here in this video, we're going to torture that thing. I mean, I'm talking charge it, discharge it, charge it, discharge it, charge it, discharge it. I mean, we're going to be running the cycles. So they say it's good for quite a bit of cycles. We're going to find out. So what you could do is you could just hook the solar directly up to the inverter, and it'll work. If you hook the solar directly up to the blue box, it will push the electricity back onto the grid on demand, right? So what we're really trying to do is we're trying to soak up as much of that energy as possible with the battery through the MPPT charge controller, which has a better MPPT than the off-grid inverter, okay? So we're going to soak up as much energy as we can, push it into the battery, and then we're going to push it out back onto the grid with the inverter. So we're really just smoothing out the peaks and valleys because there's clouds in the sky, there's rain, there's clouds. I don't really think there's much solar going on in the rain, but in those really cloudy days, you're going to be able to take advantage of just storing the energy, waiting for the battery to get to the set point, and then as soon as the Gridtie inverter recognizes that the battery has met its set point, it's going to push all that energy out at 1,000 watts, or 800 watts, or 700 watts, or whatever you set, right? So instead of like, I don't know, let's compare it to like a flood dam. Whenever the water's really low, there's no flow, there's no water pressure, they shut the dam, right? They're not flowing water all the time just to make a little bit of electricity. They're going to stop that flow, let the water build up, and then they're going to open it at a more opportune time, or, a more desirable time to be able to offset their loads at a better advantage, a better mechanical advantage, because the water is going through the dam at a lot higher velocity, I'm sure creating more electricity. Guys, if I'm full of it, let me know in the comments below. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I don't do this for a career or anything. This is really just a hobby for me. So if you're, a full-time solar tech or commercial electrician, don't boil behind the keyboard. I'm just doing this to learn, just like you guys are on YouTube to learn. I'm trying to learn. I'm not even really trying to show you how this is all going together, like a how-to. This is really just me setting up my own stuff and then ranting about it. Here you're going to see me do a little automotive trick. I learned this from an old-timer to, better organize spark plug wires. And these kind of, are about that size, so I just kind of found it to look a little bit better to do it this way. I hate getting cut on zip ties. So I'm making sure all of them aren't going to cut me or scratch me later on. I'm sure everyone kind of hates that whenever they're working on something or they got their hands in something. And then all of a sudden a zip tie lashes them open because some careless electrician just left a big old spur on there. I hate that. I sure appreciate everyone watching this far into the video. If you haven't clicked away by now, then you're really helping out my watch time. I haven't made it to where, YouTube is paying me, or I'm not even close. I just upload these videos whenever I am doing solar projects in the real life. So I don't go out of my way to buy equipment, to, pump out content. This is just what I'm actually really doing. And, this is my stuff. This is old equipment that I don't want to sit in boxes, or I don't want it to be in boxes anymore because I don't have anywhere to put it. And then if I just mount it on the wall, I want it to at least be useful. So, we're really just doing this to make use of this old equipment and to maybe try out something that hasn't been done before. If it has been done before, again, I'd love to know. Please just tell me or link me, to whatever it is that does this job that I'm hoping to do. If we've done anything today, we've made a torture device for batteries. So maybe if I get to where, they're actually sponsoring me, you'll see some of these other guys, get battery after battery after battery after battery. And then they, just put it on a shelf, and then they have all these mixed match batteries from all these different suppliers and stuff all hooked into this one little grid in their room or whatever it is. I want to be able to torture test those batteries. If they claim 1,200 cycles, I want to be able to accurately do 1,200 cycles. So, maybe that's what we've created here today, and we're going to be able to use this in future videos. I don't know. We're going to do a little update. Once I get it installed, we're going to do an actual install video. And again, I sure appreciate everyone watching. Please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. I'm kind of far away from being able to be paid for this, or 1,000 subscribers. But we're going to get there soon. Thanks, guys.